The Milwaukee Bucks just made a statement in their first game with the big three of Dame Giannis and Khris all back healthy. Since December 10th, they picked up a crucial 120-112 win against the Indiana Pacers, the team that sent them packing last season. Giannis was in MVP mode once again, but it didn't start that way. You see, Giannis and Dame both missed a week of action due to sicknesses they picked up from Vegas, and they were apparently so bad that Dame barely left his bed for 3 straight days. Lillard has already had his first game back against Chicago, where he bounced back instantly, putting up 29 points, but the Bucks ultimately didn't get enough contributions from the other to pull out a win that game. But with Indiana on the schedule, I think all Bucks fans knew that Giannis was definitely going to play this game no matter what, and the reason for that was to show the Pacers that the only reason they beat them in the postseason last year was because of the fact he was not playing in the first half, though his rust from not playing in a week D definitely showed managing just 4 points on 25% shooting with his Bucks, down 11 points at the break. But in that second half, Giannis entered God mode, handing the Pacers a 26-0 final half on 63% shooting, making NBA history. With this effort, he tied Shaquille O'Neal for the most consecutive 20-plus point games on better than 50%, shooting 25 straight, times the most since the 1970s. But how did Giannis and the Buck flip the switch so quickly after such a disastrous first half? Let's break it down to begin the third. The Bucks get the ball to Giannis at the nail, where he's been lethal this season here, connecting on the mid-range. Jumper now Milwaukee go to their most trusted Twan game with a Giannis-Khris pick and roll. And even though Middleton has missed the shot, Giannis boxes out Siakam for the putback slam. But Indiana was still scoring as the Pack has beat them right back down the floor for a turn of slam. And this kept happening as Indiana rebuilt their lead, back out to 19 points in the middle of the third turn. So how did the Bucks manage to mount this comeback? Well, they locked in defensively, going on a 19-3 run to end that third quarter. First, the Bucks start the run with a play that I love. It's a wedge action with Damon Brook, with Giannis one pass away, giving them an endless amount of options. And here Giannis makes the catch to then feed Lopez going backdoor. Now it's Prince who vacuums up the loose ball and gives to AJ Green, who makes a downtown hit, cutting the deficit back to just 11 here. Prince makes another big time play, beating the shot clock buzzer with a tough mid-range jumper. But then it was Dame time, as with Giannis and Middleton both out of the lineup, he stepped up, making 2 massive triples after. Starting the game 0 of N from the field, Milwaukee would then start the fourth without any of the big three, which handed Indiana a 7-point lead. So this forced Rivers to have to put Giannis into the game at the 10:30 mark, a lot earlier than he would have hoped on. His first play back in the game, though, he set a tone with this Euro step foul and one between 2 defenders, but Indiana had appeared to lock back in as they kept answering the Bucks, as this time Walker knocks down a contested step back, triple pushing Indiana's lead back, out to 5. But then Milwaukee made one last push, as first Giannis stepped up, making a couple of Dirk-likey fadeaways, one over Siakam down on the block and the other one at the nail. Then with the shot clock winding down and the Bucks offense in scramble mode, Darman Lard stepped up, making a huge triple, but Indiana just kept having answers, keeping it close, even coming up with a big-time block on Giannis. So with Dame and Giannis quickly running out of gas, they needed a big-time contribution, and they got it from Gary Trent Jr., who made 2 massive triples moments later. And the second one was absolutely insane with the shot clock winding down as he fades in the corner and hits Milwaukee. Could have made all the excuses in the world as to why they lost this game, and it would have been fair. But credit to them as they came out and fought hard, making a statement against the team that knocked them out last season. Giannis was a man possessed in the second half, making an array of tough mid-range jumpers, leading his team to a 19-point comeback on the road. His jump shooting in season pass felt like it was just going to be a turnover. However, this mid-range shooting ability is becoming a real strength in his game. And if this continues, the NBA is going to be in serious trouble, because how do you slow a guy down who's the most dominant paint scorer in the game, but who's now also able to beat you with the jump? Giannis has absolutely been unstoppable this season, and you could just feel it in that second half that Giannis wasn't going to let Milwaukee lose this game. The Pacers are a team that the Bucks have called front runners in the past, meaning that they only talk trash when they have a big lead. So when the Pacers Pacers took that 19-point lead, it wasn't a surprise to anyone when they started talking trash. But what really stood out to me was how Giannis talked right back, even with his team down 19 points, as Giannis stood on business, tapping into a certain level of dominance that most players never reach over their entire careers, and Giannis let the Pacers hear about it every single time, which is something you don't usually see from him. Giannis just appears to be so confident in his game, and I believe that has to do with him now being able to hit mid-range shots, as in seasons past, he kind of awkwardly dribbled into them, whereas this season, it's a shot that he said he knows he's going to make, as mentally he approaches them just like a layup. He's not overthinking them, as he's instead reading what the defense gives him and taking whatever that is. And down the stretch of this game, the mid-range jumper was absolutely put on full display, the one that he hit in the post fading away. Like Dirk was pure, and even to put the game on ice, he went to the mid-range jumper and made it over Zeke. He hadn't played in a week, but yet he was still the clear best player on the floor. And if you were just looking at that second half, he didn't even appear to skip a beat, putting on an undisputed MVP performance in the game. We got a great look at just how this Buck offense can look with the big three available. Young is on his way to his third MVP, providing the paint dominance and now mid-range jump shooting. While Dame and Khris are so effective at getting to their spots, the amount of space that there is on the floor with these three out there is crazy, as it makes it a lot harder to send doubles to Giannis without leaving Lard or Middleton with space to create. To make matters even better for the Bucks is how Khris Middleton has started to look like his old self as of late, and even better is how his minutes keep going up, logging 31 in this game. Over the last 5 outings, Khris Middleton has averaged 19.2 points and 5.8 assists per game on 52% shooting, providing the scoring impact the team needs. But it's the number of 5.8 assists that's been the most impactful for the team, providing another smart playmaker and ball handler, really acting as an extension of the coaching staff on the floor. The level of basketball IQ that Khris Middleton has is extremely underrated, as he's so good at putting guys into the right spots to succeed. His individual twin game with Giannis is still the most deadly, as he's just so good at navigating around the Giannis screen to either get to a mid-range hit or to put a pinpoint pass for Giannis so he can finish. Middleton is one of the most effective mid-range jump shooters in the NBA, making a league-leading 58% last season. And even though he's yet to reach that level of efficiency, this season currently making 40% from mid-range, there's little doubt that he won't reach that level once more. It's been super impressive over what we've seen from him in the very limited sample size this season and all of last year as the third option, as he's been able to become more effective on a lower usage rate. Middleton is absolutely crucial to the Buck makeup, and I've been preaching this since the 2-8 start. Whenever the Bucks have their big three available, back them to beat nearly anyone in this league. Right now, Khris just knows how to impact a game, as even though he only shot 36% from the floor in the game versus Indiana, it's the number of 7 assists that's just so impactful, as he was able to keep the ball moving when Khris was out to start the season. Oftentimes possessions on offense would get very stagnant, but now that he's back, you can just see how much more the ball moves when he's out there compared to when he's not. However, even though the offense has started to look better in recent weeks, it still isn't to the level that they need it to be to become real title contenders. Currently, the Bucks have the 13th best offensive rating in the NBA with the 12th best defense, and even though those defensive numbers are right about where the team wants them to be, the offensive rating is nowhere close to where it should be when they traded for Dame Lillard in the first place. The thought process was very simple over the last 2 postseasons before that move. Milwaukee were unable to generate consistent offense in the half court. Their defense in that time was the best in the league, but you can get as many stops as you want. But if you're not putting the ball on the basket, the truth is you're not going to win many games because you have to outscore your opponent, and Mookie at times were just unable to do so. So in comes Dame Lillard with the idea that he can set the table for the offense in the half court, and they would just need to put an above-average defense around him, so the defensive rating of 12 bet would be great if they also had a top 5 offense, and that just hasn't happened for this team after the loss of the Lillard with the idea that he can set the table for the offense in the half court, and they would just need to put an above-average defense around him, so the defensive rating of 12 bet would be great if they also had a top 5 offense, and that just hasn't happened for this team after the loss of the Bulls though. Doc Rivers mentioned how they have some plays designed for Dame Giannis and Khris to all run together, and how they're going to start implementing these actions within the coming week. The coaches believe that these plays are very good but they yet to see just how efficient they could be in a real game setting personally. I think that any play executed properly with the big three could be an incredibly dangerous weapon, with the ability to create copious amounts of space for either one of the big three. I'm looking forward to seeing these plays over the next week or so, but I do believe these next 2 months is make or break time for the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee have to figure out these offensive sets and figure them out fast to do this. They'll need to stay healthy, but the reason why it's so crucial they have to figure them out very quickly is because of the gauntlet of schedule they have to end the season, because they started the year so poorly. They've kind of put themselves into a bit of a tough spot as come February, March and April. Here are some of the games Bucks have to finish the season. They still have 2 matchups against Dallas, OKC, Denver, the Lakers, Phoenix and the Knicks, while they also have games against the Spurs, Grizzlies, Cavaliers, Warriors, 3 more against Indiana, and 2 more meetings with the Clippers in February. They do have some rest games in between, but in March it's just tough game after tough game. It's going to be so crucial that they leave this grueling stretch with a winning record if they want to earn a good seed for the postseason. But even more important than that is that they walk out of this healthy, which is by far my biggest concern by having these tough games back to back. There really isn't going to be an opportunity to rest guys without losing games. So Milwaukee needs to find their offense and find it fast to stay afloat in the Eastern Conference, which is beginning to look loaded near the top. But these are just my takes. How many wins do you think Milwaukee ends the season with? Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments section below.